morning everybody. My name is Vino Venkatesh and welcome to another class with me on the English language with Sai Education. Today we're going to continue actually talking about the rules for verbs with what we started last time. So it's a rather important lecture and I really can't wait to start. How about you? So let's start with where we left last time, the rules of verbs, right? So this would be our sixth rule or rule number F. So this rule is like, if we use the phrase one of plus a plural noun, then the verb can be a singular or a plural verb depending on whether we use relative pronouns in that sentence. Okay. Now, what are relative pronouns? So relative pronouns are pronouns like who, which, that, whom, whoever, whomever, and so on. What do? They basically, again, like all other pronouns, they replace a noun or modify or describe a noun and are used to connect a clause or a phrase with a noun or another pronoun. Got it? Now, let's look at an example. La Nina is one of the weather phenomena which associates with abundant rainfall in India, says experts after a lot of research. Okay, so what is the subject? Subject is La Nina. What does the sentence say? La Nina is one of the weather phenomena, which is a plural noun. Singular of phenomena is phenomenon. Plural is phenomena, right? So it says is one of the weather phenomena which associates. Now associates is a singular verb, correct? Which is a relative pronoun. What does it replace? It replaces or it refers to weather phenomena, which is plural. Therefore, the verb after the relative pronoun which should also be in the plural, correct? Because which is referring to weather phenomena, which is plural. Therefore, the verb associated with weather phenomena must also be in the plural and should be associate, not associates, correct? So that's the first correction we make. La Nina is one of the weather phenomena which associate with abundant rainfall in India. Now look at the last part of the sentence. It says experts after a lot of research. Now the verb says refers to the noun experts. Experts is a plural noun. So the verb should also be plural. So the verb here is in the singular form. Says is in the singular form. It should be plural. And we have to say experts after a lot of research. So La Nina is one of the weather phenomena which associate with abundant rainfall in India, say experts after a lot of research. Okay. Second example, the alarm is triggered when one of the criminals tries to escape. Now, is there a relative pronoun here? What is a noun? What are we talking about? There are two parts of this sentence. The alarm is triggered. Is it correct? Yes. Singular noun, singular verb. Okay. When one of the criminals tries to escape. Look at the second part of the sentence. One of the criminals is what? One person. So the verb should also be singular and it should be tries, which is correct, right? So this sentence is correct. Alright, so the next rule. So the next rule is basically twofold. First thing, it says preposition is always followed by the V4, that is the ing form. Now what are prepositions? Prepositions are words like in, on, under, and so on. These prepositions are always followed by the V4 form of the verb. We talked about the different forms of the verbs, right? There are 5 forms, V1 to V5. So what is V4? V4 is nothing but the ing form, right? So that's what this rule says. It also says that the infinitive to is always followed by the V1 form. What is a V1 form? V1 is a present plural form. Remember, if you don't, go back to the previous lectures and see what the 5 forms of the verbs are. We talked about types of verbs, main versus auxiliary verbs, the forms of the verbs, transitive, intransitive, finite, infinite verbs, and so on, right? Okay, let's take a look at an example which addresses both these points. The Indian Railways has sought funds to upgrade tracks and signals with the aim of achieving zero accidents. Now, let's look at part by part. The Indian Railways has sought funds. Is it correct? The verb is a singular verb. Why is it singular? Because the Indian Railways is a team, a unit, a department, a collective noun, right? The collective noun is always, although it appears plural, it is used in the singular form. So therefore, the verb also is singular, right? To upgrade. To is an infinitive. Upgrade. What form of verb is it? It is a present and a plural form. That is V1. So this is also right. Okay. Look at the second half of the sentence. To upgrade tracks and signals with the aim of achieve zero accidents. Of can be used as a preposition. So as per this rule, it has to be followed by the verb in the V4, that is the ing form. So achieve has to be achieving. So the Indian Railways has sought funds to upgrade tracks and signals with the aim of achieving zero accidents. Okay. Now let's take a look at some other miscellaneous examples. We consider natural resources only for rural communities, but now it is a major provider of livelihood options for both urban and semi-urban population. Right. What is a subject? We consider natural resources is a subject only for rural communities, but now it. What is it? It is a pronoun, right? What is it referring to? It is referring to natural resources, which is in the plural. So we know that the pronouns have to agree with the noun in number as well as gender. So number should be plural, gender is neutral, so we have to use they. Right? And what should the verb be? The verb should also be plural because the pronoun and the subjects are in the plural. So we consider natural resources only for rural communities, but now they are major providers. That should also be in the plural of livelihood options for both urban and semi-urban population. Okay, next example. One way to mainstream women in different police forces are to develop a model policy that challenge the deep patriarchy in the institution. So clearly, what is this? What is the flaw here? What is the subject saying? One way to mainstream women in different police forces, right? So that is singular. So if we are talking about one way, then that means there's only one way, which is in the singular, and therefore the verb should also be in the singular. It should be is to develop, right? Now, when we use is to develop a model policy, all right, that challenge, what does that refer to? That is a relative pronoun. That refers to model policy, which is also singular, and therefore the verb following the relative pronoun should agree with that relative pronoun and should be in the singular. So challenge should be challenges, right? So one way to mainstream women in different police forces is to develop a model policy that challenges the deep patriarchy in the institution. Okay, next example. In the meeting were present our Honorable PM as well as some other delegates of the ruling party to figure out the crisis. Next example. In the meeting were present our Honorable PM as well as some other delegates of the ruling party to figure out the crisis. So what is a verb here? Here the verb is were, okay, but the subjects are coming after the verb. What are the subjects being referred to? Our Honorable PM as well as some other delegates. Now, as per our rule, which we studied from our previous lecture, that is lecture 11, rule D, whenever two nouns are joined by as well as, the verb that is used always should agree with the first noun. Okay, so what is the first noun here? Our Honorable PM. Is it singular? It is. So what should the verb be? It should also be singular. So it should be was. Okay. So in the meeting was present our Honorable PM as well as some other delegates of the ruling party to figure out the crisis. To is an infinitive. What should the verb form be? Present plural, that is V1. Is it correct? Figure? Yes. The singular is figures, plural is figure. So this is right. Correct? All right. Moving on to the next example. Oops. I think I have perhaps missed something here. Oops. Yeah. Okay. The WHO proves that one of the finest reflections on mental illness are now cured in various labs. So WHO is singular, verb is also singular. Proves that one of the finest reflections on mental illness, one of, so it is singular. Verb also has to be singular and should be is and not are. Is now cured in various labs. Okay, so the next example, the number of female nominee. Okay, there's a typo here. It should be female nominees for music awards who belongs to Latin America and France are alarming the fans in the country. Okay, so what is the subject here? The number of female nominees for music awards. Who is a relative pronoun. What does who replace? who is replacing the female nominees for music awards. So it is plural. So the verb after plural should also be in the plural and not belongs. It should be belong. Okay. Belong to Latin America and France are alarming the fans in the country. Okay. Now here, the number of female nominees for music awards who belong to Latin America and France is. We have to use the verb is because we are actually talking about the number. The sentence is divided into two parts. The first part is basically the number of female nominees for music awards who belong to Latin America and France, there should be a comma here, is alarming the fans in the country. The verb here should be is and not are because this part of the sentence refers to the number. The number is a collective noun and it is in the singular, and that's why it should have a singular verb. Okay. We cannot say the number of female nominees for music awards who belong to Latin America and France are alarming. No, because it refers to the number. We are talking about the number of female nominees for music awards. It is only here because of this relative pronoun who, which refers to female nominees, that the verb here is in the plural. Next example. This refers to the rule where phrases like neither of, either of, each, every, any and none, they always refer to a singular subject and therefore must be followed by a singular verb. But none can also be followed by a plural verb. We'll see in the example how. Let's take a look at this example. Okay. It is surprising that neither of the two candidates, that means not candidate number 1 and not candidate number 2, have been selected for the post of branch manager due to inefficiency. So as per this rule, the verb should be in the singular because neither of refers to a singular subject. So the verb has to be has instead of have. Okay, got it? So it is surprising that neither of the two candidates has been selected for the post of branch manager due to inefficiency. None of the selected players who has been given a chance to join this team plays confidently. Okay, so who is a relative pronoun? What does it refer to? Selected players, which is plural. So the verb has to be have instead of has. Okay. Now none. So here, even though we have in our previous rule that none has to be followed by a singular or a plural verb, this is a case where none is followed by a plural verb. So none of the selected players who have been given a chance to join this team play or plays confidently. Now this could be a singular or plural. The next example. The recent data released by the CAG suggests that the equivalent population of Brazil and China endures the same number of cyclones and other natural calamities during winter. So there are two parts of the sentence. Let's look at the first one. The recent data released by CAG suggests. Now data is a collective noun and it is used in the plural sense. So the verb should also be plural. So it should be suggest. Okay, that. Now second half. Equivalent populations of Brazil and China, are they singular or plural? Plural, right? So the verb should also be plural. Endure. So it should be plural. So the recent data released by CAG suggests that equivalent populations of Brazil and China endure the same number of cyclones and other calamities during winter. A series of miscalculations, that means many miscalculations by several governments, as explained by the Supreme Court in both J&K and the Centre, has led to the impasse between the two. Now has is a singular verb. It should be plural because series means many. So the government introduced a series of measures during the lockdown to contain COVID, right? So many. Verb also has to be plural, right? So a series of miscalculations by several governments, as explained by the Supreme Court in both J&K and the Centre, have led to the impasse between the two. Okay, next. The profile of the militancy and violence in J&K and its neighboring states are undergoing a drastic change as only the young educated are being recruited to militants ranks. Okay, now there are many things here. Let's go step by step. The profile of the militancy and violence in J&K and its neighboring states are undergoing a drastic change. Here, what is the subject? The subject is the profile, which is singular. So the verb has to be singular, not are, but it should be is. Okay, is undergoing a drastic change as only the young educated locals, which is plural, are being recruited to militants ranks. So this is correct. So the rule here is basically when there is a structure such as noun, plus preposition plus another noun, the verb always agrees with the first noun. In this case, the first noun is profile, preposition is off, and the second noun is militancy and violence, and that's why the verb should be singular, because profile is singular. Okay. Next, the monitoring committee is a team of students who take care of the issues in the mess and report to the secretary in case of any mishap. So there's a relative pronoun who. What does it refer to? It refers to a team of students. But team of students is not a person. It's a group, right? And it is singular. So we have to replace who by the relative pronoun which, and the verb should be in the singular form. It should be takes and not take. So the correct version would be the monitoring committee is a team of students which takes care of the issues in the mess and reports to the secretary in case of any mishap. Okay. Next, the habit of smoking and chewing tobacco products, as research proves, are harmful to health. So what is the sentence saying? What is harmful to health? It's the habit of smoking and chewing tobacco products. Habit is singular, and therefore the verb are should be singular. It's not are, it should be is. So it should be the habit of smoking and chewing tobacco products, as research proves, is harmful to health. Next, an IPS officer accompanied by several other accused politicians in several scans are facing the same charges imposed by the court. What is the sentence talking about? Sentence is talking about an IPS officer who is accompanied by several other accused politicians in several cases is facing the same charges imposed by the local court. Who is facing charges? It is the IPS officer, not the others. So the verb should be singular. The verb here is plural are. It should be is. So we have to change it by saying an IPS officer accompanied by several other accused politicians in several scams is facing the same charges imposed by the local court. So this brings us to the end of lecture 12. If you have any, please let me know, put it in the comment box, and until next time, take care and best wishes.